Hello and welcome to Joburg Today. My name is Dumin Hlapo, bringing you the best of what's going down in and around Johannesburg. The Cinderella story has been without a doubt one of the world's most loved fairy tales, and Joburg Ballet has taken this story of true love to stage.
Joburg Today recently attended the final dress rehearsal of Joburg Ballet's Cinderella Waltz, now running at the Joburg Theatre. Ian MacDonald, the artistic director, shares with us his inspiration for this ballet piece.
Cinderella is one of those fairy tale classics. I really based it on the storybook. I've actually got a daughter who's 7 at the moment, so when I choreographed this 3 years ago, I really had children in mind and how they were reading it and how they were perceiving it. So the ballet you see is literally my interpretation of the great classic story. I think for me, Cinderella is that love story that everyone loves to get their prince at the end of the day. There's hardship, there's some tough times that you've got to go through, but at the end of the day, you get that prince that you've been searching for your whole life. So you've got to stay optimistic in life, and when things are down, it can turn around, and who knows who's waiting for you at the end of the road. I would love it to travel all around South Africa, but unfortunately, due to funding constraints, we're only going to be performing here at the Joburg Theatre. The company's going to keep working. We have got what we're calling studio soirees, so we're going to invite the audience, public, into our rehearsal space, and we're going to turn that into a little miniature theatre, and we're going to do performances for them of a mixed program. I want to try and get the company to do a little bit of the contemporary works and then some of the great classical pas de deux, so we can show the diversity to the audiences, and it's in an intimate environment which I think audiences really enjoy. It's not on a big stage, and you can really get to see the dancers up close and personal.
We also spoke to the ballet's lead cast of London-based ballerino Owen Thorne and prima ballerina Bernice Silvius on their preparation.
Me playing the prince, I actually really am trying to pitch it for Cinderella, because although I'm a principal role, the show's called Cinderella, not Prince. And so I really need to create a character that works for the ballerina that I'm dancing with. And it takes just a bit of time to find the person that is best suited for her. It's been really great. I would say one of the biggest challenges for me has been the altitude. I live in London, and that's a much lower altitude, so I find that sometimes I can get fatigued much faster. But luckily, it actually is such an issue that on the side of the stage, they actually have oxygen canisters that you can breathe in, which I am taking full advantage of, so I don't really have too much of an excuse for that. You know, I guess it's something that good wins over evil, you know, that it's a happy ending. I don't know, I mean, it's funny because as a kid, I loved Cinderella. You know, I liked the Grimm fairy tale, I liked the Disney version, and it's something that's haunting and everyone can relate to, you know, being the underdog and then winning in the end and finding Prince Charming. So I guess it's sort of just an everlasting story.
I'm a little tired now, but I'm glad that the final dress went well. I try and not think too much about the whole big deal about opening night. I just try and think that it's another performance, but also the company is so excited, so it's actually a lot of fun to do opening night because everybody's got that little bit of extra adrenaline for the evening. I think the hardest part for me is obviously the acting scenes during Act 1, and there's a little bit more, which we call the kitchen scenes, because there's so much happening, there's so much furniture you have to move, you have to remember which packet to take where, you have to help dress the sisters, there's just a lot happening on stage, and it's strange, it's not actually the dancing bits that I'm so worried about, it's all the other stuff, all the prop things that I'm scared I'll forget to bring somebody's hat on or forget to take the broom off or something like that. So honestly, that's the scariest bit at the moment. Magical, it really is, and it's so funny because today I was in the dressing room and they had started, and you can hear a little bit of the chatter in the audience, and there were some audience members and there were a few kids, and when the curtain opened, I could just hear them all go, and that is just the best. Then you just know it's magical for them as well.
I'm Lira Viaggi for Joburg Today.
Like us on Facebook, JoburgToday.tv, and follow us on Twitter at Joburg Today. Joburg Today got to meet the cast of the stage play Animal Farm, which has interpreted the novel from a South African context. Check this out.
Hearken to my joyful time.
Animal Farm is a novella by George Orwell that was first published in 1945 and has remained consistent in maintaining its relevance generation after generation. We caught up with the cast of Animal Farm to discuss its importance, which they have interpreted into a South African context currently taking place at the Market Theatre.
Well, firstly, I mean, maybe I'm being a bit biased, but I mean, these are 5 black actors on stage, 5 black female actors on stage. So already there's an interesting dynamic of, you know, you see us tackling characters that are male, that are English, but we are bringing it back home, we're bringing it to our own backyard. And I think there's something very interesting about women playing male characters, the sort of power dynamics of tackling masculinity and how to avoid making a spoof of it or a parody of it, and bringing some authenticity to it. I think that's something that makes the play very unique, very South African, and yeah, bringing it home, like I said, where people can relate. You know, you don't want to be up here and, you know, doing English accents and saying, yes, darling, yes, comrade. No, it's comrade, you know what I mean? That's an accent, I guess, that you can relate to, because you hear it every day at our mothers, it's our grandmothers, it's our aunts. So I think that those are some of the things that make this particular adaptation very special.
Essentially, the story is about power and how power can corrupt a human being or a society. So, and as we've seen the world evolve and change, and you know, from pre-colonial to colonial times, post-colonialism, and this modern capitalist society we live in, and with every society that we see that has had to overcome certain power structures of oppression, like apartheid or civil rights movement or whatever it might be, we find that in those countries, the people who then take over the power after those who were oppressing them end up actually resembling the same people they were fighting against. So essentially, it stops being about people and about power. And I think that's why this play is so relevant. You know, in 45, Stalin was making reference to the Russian Revolution. It's 2016, and this is so relevant to our society.
George Orwell's famous quote states, "Absolute power corrupts absolutely." Some would say this quote reflects South Africa's political state.
What the reflection right now within Animal Farm is, as much as the animals had hoped that when they were in power things would have changed, but nothing changed and everything still stayed the same. One is hoping that after some 20-odd years, things would have been better, but things are not better. And if more than anything, there is the sense that is happening within our people right now, and people are feeling like we actually haven't benefited anything. I mean, like some of the things that or what you call the ANC government promised the people, those promises haven't been kept. Fees must fall is one of the struggles that the kids are fighting for. In a way, Animal Farm, it begins with the oppression of the animals being oppressed by the humans, and then the animals come into power, but nothing has changed. And so what is the difference between me right now, who's living in 2016, than my mother, who was living in 1962?
Censorship is arguably one of the creations of satire, and many people find it as a platform to express critical issues without implications.
For far too long we've been scared, right? For far too long we censor ourselves with regards to speaking out. And if you don't name and call it out for what it is, I don't think then change is going to happen. So it is important. Sure, I mean, in George Orwell's time, it was very problematic and very dangerous. George Orwell is not his real name, you know, it's a pseudonym. So he was also in a time where he was fearing that he might be, you know, beheaded and killed. So I think for the form itself served him at the time, right, in order to make it a satire and allegorical kind of depiction of what was going on. But I think we are free-ish enough at the time that we find ourselves to be able to push the envelope a little bit further and say that this is what it is. So calling a spade a spade. But it as a form, it does help in the sense that some of us may not necessarily be readily willing to say what needs to be said. But I think because of the space in theatre and what and the form of storytelling allows, is that we can actually say what we need to say and still be protected.
I'm Ray for Joburg Today.
Hi, my name is Tilisile Pongolo, and you're watching Joburg Today.
That's all for today. For more on the city, do check out our playlist. From myself, Cinderella, and the Joburg Today crew, it's goodbye.